Individuality. Person A, person B. Mathematical 1 and 2 examples. These people, these humans, person A, the police officer, person B, the psychologist, neither has to and are required to have a degree in higher education. Both are funded, supported by people who want more services and demand more equality. Each example, A and B, 1 and 2, are in charge of individuality in the world. The police officer stops the individual from being a thug, gangster, bully. Person B, they keep the consciousness and the drugs flowing for individuality to flourish. And there's now a society, a city, a state, and a planet Earth split between these two halves of their equation for equality. Infinity C, consciousness C, equals ooh la la. The Punisher, person A, mystery, person B. Men and women, transgender, dogs and cats, now allowed to be whoever they want in this democracy. Except the person who's with the second example, B, doesn't acknowledge their hypocrisy, doesn't explain their meth and their crack, their stimulation and social abundance, and lack of limits and restrictions. In other words, the creepy man, the creepy woman, their girl and their lady and their man and their boy, they don't have the rule of law. They have a task, and they have a behavior monitored and observed within the system of medicine. They love. The police gets beaten, brutalized, yelled at, screamed at, defunded. And potentially eliminated. And then there's one. And in the military, they say, when there is one, there is none. Complete domination. Women posturing next to men smoking tobacco, sharing the cigarette. Washing down the carcinogens with some booze and some liquor and some fried bacon. Some dirty oil with some trans fat. And as long as they behaviorally meet the suggestions of the psychologist. Who works alongside the psychiatrist to hand out the medicine, and right down the hall from the doctor who touches their vagina in the gynecology chair and grabs the balls of the little boys who want to play some sports to make their hormones glisten. Individuality has been turned massive to prevent suicide in this kind of world now. The person who studies, goes to school, graduates, completes an objective, and succeeds learning quantum wave mechanics within the study of film, explaining stimulation, the brain, body, and mind, has no value next to the bold dyke, the pride slogan saying Madonna lookalike, her husband who has sex, and his buddies, his friends, his comrades who fight alongside him in the battle for her pussy, her cooch and his cock, her lips and his power. The mass mind, in other words, replaces common sense. People's faces, identifiable from addiction, their voices scraggly and daggly from their abuse to their bodies, from cigarettes and butane, and abusing their children, and adoring the tender, caring, and thoughtful female now. The psychologist uses behavior and listens, watches, observes, and mostly keeps track of hysteria. Who's broken the sound barrier when they're the person who's running the daily news? The police officer, the military, whoever uses force, a bullet, a rifle, they stop the abuser and the bully when there's no restraint. They take someone to jail who listens to a person in their home and does their own surveillance. And coincidentally, hears their voice and moves faster than caffeine and never needs to eat, never needs to feel alive and take a deep breath. From what they believe now. The elimination of identity was the first part. People are saying the police are taking away my identity, and they are making me mad and emotional. They break windows, they riot, ignore the pandemic, and shing, there's consciousness, infinitely aware. An individuality with the psychologist in her bull dyke haircut, and her hijab, and her 200 pounds of fat and chub. A fish would eat in the ocean and share with the shark from the obesity. Destroys individuality, and indeed stops free speech, dialect, tone, and accents are now cause for prescriptions, insecurity, processes. These aren't people who see the waves. These are folks who say the person who's talking about that kind of word has gotten confused and has mistaken their mind and caused their mental ability to fail, and therefore need to visit their office, make an appointment, and smell the smoke on her breath and see his eyes and curls dangling from his skull. A person leaves, goes back home, and returns. To their delirium now. A simulation. Controlled with the speed, attention, and numbers with decimal points. 1.2 seconds later. 1.2 years ago. While they were on their binge, playing social poppy mommy, hula hooping with their skirts, saying feminism has won. A person studied neuroscience and recorded their banging on the wall and their intervals and drug deals now.